welcome back. Another Broker Talk show. We've got a great guest for you. You're looking right at him, Steve Kenny. He's living the life.
Trying.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome aboard, Steve. It's so nice to have you here and share some of your vast information on how to live a great life.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate being here. Thank you for the invite. This is great.
Um, so, uh, my first question, I guess, is a comment that you have a background in business. You studied business in college,
I
um,
did, yes.
and so after that, then you got into real estate. And while you were in real estate, you decided that you were going to become an investor. So those are like step one, two, three. Tell me a little bit about your thinking around all of that as you're still a really young guy. Tell me about how that all happened. What was the progress?
Yeah, so I got a business degree at UMass Amherst, and I've always been business minded. I've always considered myself a hustler since I was little, starting with lemonade stands and getting my first job when I was like 12. So I've always had the business mindset. It always suited me. But I actually, there was a gap in between graduating and getting my real estate license, but it took one of my friends to get my license. And I was like, I wish I got this earlier because, yeah, it's the perfect mix of business, sales, marketing. And as soon as I got my license, I started getting business right away and it just clicked. I'm like, wow, this is what I was meant to do. And I started selling and just being in the real estate business. I met a lot of people that were investors,
Yeah.
and I had mentors that put me on with investing, and it really intrigued me how you could live a lifestyle of passive income just by owning real estate. So from there on, it changed everything. It blew my mind, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to work towards selling homes and then taking my profits and buying homes that I could rent out. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
So you use the term passive income, and I know you're not passive. So let's stretch that out a little bit because people kind of think that, oh, I'll just buy this and it'll be an Airbnb and we rent it a whole bunch of times and oh boy, but it's not. Tell us a little bit more about the process.
So, my first introduction to passive income was my two family.
Hmm.
And
You
everyone
were you
said
were
that,
living you were living in one of them, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm currently living there now. And because everyone said passive income is when you make money when you sleep. So when you're a landlord and you're collecting checks, it's not a 9 to 5 everyday grind, which was great. So from there, yeah, I figured short-term rentals as not as passive as a long-term rental, but there's still a lot of passive parts to it. But if you get your systems down, you can make it as passive as possible.
Right.
And that's where my mindset was with the short-term rentals.
Right. Right. And I happen to know that you rent through Airbnb, and tell the audience a little bit about what's really essential if you're renting through Airbnb.
So renting through Airbnb, so I have an Airbnb up in Conway, New Hampshire.
Mhm.
And my thing was when I look for Airbnbs, I look for really good locations and unique places with good reviews. So when I travel wherever it may be, or across seas in the United States, I always look for a unique place. I always look for a great location and it has to have good reviews. So so my thought process was when I buy my own short-term rental, I'm going to try to stand out like that because there's a lot more competition now than there was when I first started. I think Airbnb is about 10 years in. And so that was my process. How can you stand out? And that was my strategy where, we created an older house that we completely renovated and made it like the farmhouse rustic style with the wood beams. and we also found a place that was on the water. It's on the Saco River, and that was like the biggest thing. In the summer, everyone's looking for the water. 4th of July, all those holidays in the summer, people want to. When we get that heat wave, you want to be in the water. So to have direct access, that was the main component to my thought process in buying that one.
And then what you didn't mention is you want it to be great, but 5-star reviews. You do look for the 5-star reviews, and you wanted people to give you 5-star reviews.
Absolutely. You're basically running your a mini hospitality business,
Yeah,
sort of like a mini hotel. So you have to have it on point because you know how people are with reviews. Most of the time, people only leave a review if they had a bad experience. But Airbnb is all about being so very hospitable and having everything lined up for them that they want. They basically show up, don't have to bring anything, stocked kitchen, stocked everything, linens, and you want them to have the most seamless time as possible and everything to go as perfect as it can, just so you can get those 5-star reviews.
yeah.
And there's ways too that you can ask people for them. And like if they didn't have a 5-star review, what can we do better? But could you leave a 5-star? And it's worked out great for me so far because I have include with Airbnb and Verbo. I think I have about 55 reviews and everyone is perfectly 5-star. So it's tough to maintain that perfect. I mean, all it takes is, one bad one to ruin that
And there's
perfect
always
score.
that one bad person, and it may have nothing to do with your place. They might have had a bad time. They might have broken up. They might have broken a leg,
Exactly. You
and that.
never know what someone's going through.
But what you do know, and anybody looking at reviews knows that if there's a whole bunch of really high reviews and there's one bad review, that's more about the reviewer than the property.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. So you have to balance that out though. If you do get that bad review, you want the next handful of guests to have the as best time as possible so you
right,
can kind of wash that out and flush that down to the
right.
bottom.
I have personally been using Airbnb for a while. I like it. And I was talking to you before we started the show about my experience recently with my college roommate who lives in Hawaii. He wanted to come east and see the leaves change for the first time in many, many years. And so we were in Rockport, Massachusetts, which is absolutely beautiful, small little town.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Great food, still active. And there's a lot of history around Gloucester and Rockport and that whole area. But the Airbnb we were in was fantastic. It was, they did have snacks for us. And, you go into a hotel and you pick up this little thing and, oh, that's going to be $17. And this was,
Exactly.
you think, oh, hand in my pocket again. This one, they had snacks there. It wasn't the kind of stuff I liked, but it didn't make any difference. There were snacks there, and they said, "Enjoy," and you just felt welcome. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the way I paint the picture between hotels and Airbnbs, with hotels, you're driving into a parking lot and you go into a check-in desk, and sometimes you're waiting in line to check in, you're dealing with people, and then basically you go into an elevator, walk down a hallway, and you have a room or a suite. And it can be great depending on where you are, but you can have a much better experience with an Airbnb. You know, you Mine's a single family, so you have your own parking. You go in, the check-in is seamless, like we talked about. It's all digital keypad, so you don't need a key. You don't need a key card or anything like that, and you're not dealing with anyone. Most of the time when you go away, you just want to show up, get in there, and be done with it. And that's why you make it a seamless process for check-in, and then you kind of leave them alone. Though I always say when I have a guest, like I had a guest that stayed a week a couple of days ago, and I didn't hear from him once. It was perfect.
yeah,
So it's just to me, it's night and day
right.
with hotels and Airbnbs. It's just
Yeah,
the experience with an Airbnb. A lot of them we stay in have yards, and you can just enjoy the outdoors. And honestly, the prices are comparable
yeah,
too.
they are.
They really are.
Yeah. So, do you want someone else's hotel room? And I've stayed in so many hotel rooms. I traveled for my first career all over the place. Um, I like being in someone's personal place. Like you've been invited, and a good Airbnb hosts are like that. You're invited into my home, and
Absolutely.
enjoy it like you would any guest. Um, but I know that so my experience in Rockport gave me the desire to actually do this same thing. And then I last week, the Rockport thing was like 3 weeks ago. Um,
Yeah,
when you have an idea in real estate, when you have something that you want to do, you got to take action.
absolutely.
Otherwise it's just a hope. And hopes, I wish I would do or I should have. That, that's nothing but frustration the rest of your life. But if you take
I
action,
agree.
you either do something or not do something. So I got invited to Agent Investor, where you and I met, and that was a 2-day conference put on by Tom Caffarella of Cameron Real Estate. He would love the shout out, I'm sure. But it was one of the great conferences, and I think the most favorite part was when he had several panels, and you were on one of the panels talking about and learning from people, from a group of people, what they did and what their focus on is always so much better than listening to a single person tell you, this is what I did and this is why I'm so successful. And if you're exactly like me, you'll be successful too. Be-
Absolutely.
because that's BS. To me, that's total BS. No, but I can't be you. You can't be me, but I can take from you and incorporate it and try and find a way. So my first action was go to a conference. Second was think of who I know in my life. I've had lots and lots of great relationships. Who can I talk to who might benefit from this passive income? And we're talking about truly passive income because all they do is they put their money in and we do everything else for them.
It's like
And
magic.
yeah, well, it's magic to them. And you're in this for 3 years and you're making 18%. A lot of people have money plunked in bank accounts and you're not making 18%.
No,
Yeah, if you're lucky, you're making 1%.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I haven't started that part yet, but it's the next step. I have identified 2 properties that I think would be perfect. Um, I'm of the age that a lot of the people that I know who have parents had passed on, so they have these houses and the kids don't want them. They've got their own houses now. And mom and dad or whoever lasted longer, they weren't really taking care of it because they couldn't or wouldn't, they don't go outside. So what do I care about, that fallen down gutter, you know?
Exactly.
Other than the fact that it's rotting out your basement floor, but that's a whole different. But these are properties that it's convenience or cash. Somebody may want to. I worked for a long time in probate real estate. Very similar thing. It's
Yep.
somebody in the family died, and what you're looking for is families where all of the executors of the will live in other towns.
Yep.
So,
Or other states.
or even better, other states. So the executor lives in Colorado, and the sister lives in California, and another person lives in Florida. Uh, they have their lives, and they're happy to take cash right away and not have to do anything about it.
They want convenience.
They want the convenience. And it's not that you're ripping them off, you're making it convenient for them to get this cash quickly that they wouldn't have. They would have had to jump through the hoops, put it on the market, deal with an agent who's a listing agent. Both of us are listing agents as well, so no trash on that. Good listing agents make a difference. Great buyers
Absolutely.
agents make a difference. They're listening to you. They're not directing you to their properties or properties of people they know. They're directing you to properties you want. But if you don't have to go through that and we just give you cash, you might not even know that you're getting a third less than what it could be after repair value. So,
Yeah,
you know,
it's a win-win.
yeah.
I mean, if the number looks good to the seller that you're offering, then it's a complete win-win. If they're happy, we'll take that number. The buyer's happy. Okay, perfect. That works out. Pay cash, and it's an easy transaction.
Talk for a minute about your Italy trip where you came up with the idea to go ahead and do this.
Yeah, so this was back in 2015. It was my first Airbnb. We went with me and my wife went with who was my girlfriend at the time, went with our two best friends, and they were like, "Hey, we want to get an Airbnb in Italy, in Capri, in the Amalfi Coast. Beautiful place, one of my favorite places in the world." It was the first time, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, we'll try that out." And we stayed at the most beautiful place with a big terrace with a view, and it was steps from downtown, and it was the most perfect place. And the host was just so accommodating, and he made my first trip to Italy just an incredible experience. And I'm like, wow, like this was so great. I don't think I could go back to hotels, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, I'd
yeah,
have awesome experiences in hotels, but like this was just above and beyond.
yeah.
And from there on, I basically just stayed in Airbnbs whenever I traveled, and I got better and better at finding the really good ones. And that eventually I was just like, you know what? Why don't I try to start my own Airbnb business, knowing what I know and everywhere that I've stayed. And I did. And I was very nervous at first, just like anything else that you jump into, you don't know what to expect and you're afraid of failure. But you know what? I'm like, I'm going to do it. The worst thing comes the worst. We'll either just go up there all the time or get a long-term tenant in there. But as soon as I threw it up on Airbnb, we had instant success within the first couple weeks. And then it kind of just snowballed, and I was like, wow, this is great. I love this. And we've been on the hunt for another one ever since. And hopefully, we're going to buy one soon this winter.
Where are you thinking?
So we like the Vermont mountain resort areas. We like Killington area. We like Stowe area. Um, since we already have New Hampshire, switch it up, go Vermont. Vermont has its own beauty, and it's not as busy in the summer, but a lot of those do have a lot of stuff going on in the summer. But I know people with Airbnbs up there that make enough money in the 6 month like winter snowy seasons. That is more than enough all year.
Back,
So I think
yeah.
that's the next venture.
Yeah, it's an awesome adventure. Back in my former career when I was a commercial photographer, I had an assignment every single year where three magazines hired me: Skiing, and then Boston Magazine, and they would send me to every one of the great resorts, skiing resorts. So I'd spend 3 days up.
Wow,
Oh, it was
what a
awesome.
job.
Oh man, it was just great. Um, but I tried some things that I thought were great. One was, for instance, I got some ski people. It was a night thing, and they didn't have any. It wasn't open, but there was enough light because of the moon. But I was back using film at that point, and film isn't as forgiving as digital. And
I
I
bet.
I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I get these three ski patrol people and get like a flare, and they just ski down with the flare?
Oh,
Well,
that's awesome.
it was a great
With the long
concept.
exposure.
Yeah, but the great concept is you couldn't see them at all. It was almost pitch black, and all it looked was these red lines coming down, and it looked like it was just a piece of film that somebody scratched. So
That's awesome.
great idea, but you know,
Yes, you know the beauty of those areas up north. They really are amazing. And they're good money makers. People want to be up there, and they'll pay top dollar. I mean, skiing and snowboarding, as you know, is a pretty expensive sport to begin with. So people will pay a premium to be up there and get a nice place with the family for a week
right.
or a weekend.
Right. And then if you're lucky, like some people are, that college roommate I was talking owns two places in Hawaii, and he Airbnbs them when he's not there. He's got one tenant who comes in and stays for a long period of time, several months, um, and they come back every year. Every
Yeah. Oh
year
yeah.
that's where they have Thanksgiving. So it becomes a tradition for these people, and it almost feels like it's your home. You know,
Oh, it does. 100%. You're giving them such an incredible experience. I mean, people save up for a while to go on these type of trips, and they just make lasting memories. People tell me they had the best time ever with their
right,
family and their kids and can't wait to come back. It makes me feel so good. It's like what I created is making so many people happy. And that's the beauty of short-term rentals too. It's like it's a great real estate investment because not only is it cash flowing nicely if you do it right, you're gaining equity and appreciation every year, but you have a place to go whenever you want, whenever it's not rented, and when it is rented, you're just making memories for people, and it
right,
just feels really good to
right,
see people have an awesome time at your place.
right. Now, I know there's people out there in the audience saying, "Yeah, but Airbnb, it's ruining the hotel business and some of these other businesses, and here in Boston and in Cambridge and some of these places, you can't do short-term rentals." That is a concern if you're going to be doing this as an investor. You want to make sure that there isn't legislation that's pending. There isn't a whole uh, thing going on their Facebook page, saying, "Hey, I hate all these short-term rentals," but there's a workaround, and you want to talk about that workaround? So you go from a short-term rental to
So they call it a midterm rental. So a lot of these places, the worst regulation would be it's a 30-day minimum. So they're
yeah,
trying to, in some parts of Hawaii as well, they do that. They're trying to get rid of these short-term rentals because people that don't run it right, they'll allow a one-night rental for $100. People come in and they party, and the neighbors hate them. So you have the locals lobbying against the Airbnbs, and then of course the hotel industry that's losing billions off Airbnb, they're lobbying against it. And that's what's so people have pivoted to midterm rentals, which is 30-day plus stays. And what that is it's like they're targeting a lot of like traveling nurses and things like that where they need 2-3 months where you're not getting as much as you would as a nightly rental, but you're getting more than you would as you a 12-month
correct,
rental.
correct,
So you're getting 20-30% off of the month, but it's still a short-term rental. There's still no long-term tenant, so you don't have to deal with all that stuff. So they call it midterm rentals, and it's actually becoming a lot more popular because a lot of people who've had short-term rental businesses in different cities and states are getting shut down because of some regulations, and they're pivoting towards midterm rentals, which is the next best thing.
right. And not just traveling nurses, but I know that people will get new jobs. I mean, that's what real estate business is always consistent. The same number, almost the same number of properties go every year. Up markets, down markets, still kind of because people die, people get married, people get divorced, people have
Yep.
kids, people get new jobs in new areas. So if you're moving from Seattle to Boston because you're in the tech business and you came here to work on some medical tech or something like that, you're not going to move your family. You may have to still sell that place. So you need to go somewhere in an area where you're going to actually look for your property. But this midterm rental is the solution. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. In the cities, I hear a lot too, where they're building a lot in the cities, a lot of construction workers who are, they sub them out for 2-3 months or
exactly.
whatever. And companies put them up as well. So it works out.
So yeah, let's talk about where that would be happening right now is in Florida, where the hurricane just devastated that area. They need
Exactly.
all kinds of people down there to work, and they're short-term people. Yeah, they may be there 4, 5, 6 months, but that's not where they live. That's where they work right now.
Exactly. So they
Um,
need housing. Yeah, Florida yeah, the hurricane damage is a great example of that.
but that hurricane damage was like, for instance, Fort Myers and Sanibel. They were just wiped out,
Oh man,
and so there
it was a
really isn't
mess.
an Airbnb for them to go to, in that because everything has to be built up. But wherever that storm didn't finish, didn't wipe everything out. That's where they're looking for the short-term rentals and midterm rentals like this.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so yeah, I would love to have places in Italy. We were up on that same coast. We were in a place called Tellaro. And
Oof,
Tellaro was a town that has only 630 people.
love that.
Been there since the 1300s. And the place that we stay, it wasn't an Airbnb. It was a bed and breakfast.
Yep.
And the food was unbelievably fantastic to the point where I started, and I'm a foodie. My wife's a foodie, so we're talking about them, and they started to talk about the history of this place, and it turns out that the grandfather of the current owner right now, they have owned this place since the 1300s, the same
Wow.
family, and they were all great chefs. And when the Germans went in and took over this area, the high command heard about the guy, the grandfather, and they took him to be Hitler's chef. So he was Hitler's chef, forced into the job, but it was Hitler's chef. And
Wow.
I don't know if I ate any Hitler food. I probably wouldn't have, but the food was and the way they treat
Italy's
you.
food is unmatched.
Yeah, yeah, and
It
the
really
whole,
is.
you want to know your wine to order wine, but in Italy, almost any local wine is just unbelievable, and
Unreal.
yeah,
I couldn't
um,
agree more. Yeah, I've never had a bad glass of wine. We always get the local winery. Yeah, and it's cheap
yeah,
and it's delicious. Yeah, the
yeah,
Italians have wine and food down. It's unmatched of anywhere I've been. We love it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, where our time is winding down, you at one point mentioned that you've gotten really good at figuring out what's an Airbnb, a good one.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. So the audience who are now planning on a trip, it's Thanksgiving coming up, so maybe they're going away. How do you find a good Airbnb?
So the first thing I look for is location. Why we chose is because it's a four-season place.
Yeah,
It's busy. You can ski and snowboard in the winter. You have the leaf peepers in the fall. You have the river and the hiking in the summer. Spring's still pretty active out there as well. So, you want places like that. They say like near national parks and state parks, like things where people will always flock to, as opposed to somewhere way out in the middle of nowhere where, it could be really cold, nothing really to do out there. So location is big. I think the trick of the trade is unique properties as well. Airbnb algorithm goes towards waterfront properties and unique stays. So like tiny homes, tree houses, lake houses, river houses, things like that, that people unique stays that people want to stay at that they've never stayed at before. Those are always the killers that do really well. That's what I look for, like I said. So basically, I just said like, where would I want to stay? Why would I
right,
want to stay here? And you kind of
right.
put yourself in that, and then you figure out, okay. But then, so you can run comps like we do as realtors just as easily because you go on Airbnb. You're like, all right, I want to buy in this area, and you look at what's available in that area and what they're getting. What's a three bed getting? What's a 4 bed getting? What's this place out in the middle, on 10 acres getting? And you get a feel of exactly what it is. And so when you identify properties, you kind of already have an idea of what it can bring in every month. And that's where how we gauge ours. Like we're looking up in Vermont now when prices are crazy up there in the winter. So we're like, all right, well, if this 3 bed that sleeps 6 to 8 is getting 700 a night, we can get something similar to that.
Sure, sure. And clearly you're a winter sport guy. Love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My wife and I are more beach people, and surfing and paddleboard, and that kind of stuff, and that's also water. And people love that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, places on the beach in the Cape. I know a few people that have Airbnbs in the Cape, and they are so busy and make so much money in the summer because the Cape is extremely seasonal, but they do enough business in those 3 or 4 months where it carries it. They're still profitable throughout the whole year, and then in the colder months they can go whenever they want and basically stay for free. So yeah, any unique stays in great locations is, I mean, I'm sure your friend in Hawaii does very well with it. I mean, people will always want to go to Hawaii, and it's the real estate out there is very limited, so he'll always have a market.
Same with the
That's a very,
Cape.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. People will always be going, and same thing with the city as well. If it's next to a concert venue or walking distance of a ton of restaurants and stuff, that will never stop. People always want to be in the action. So location is the most important.
And walking, you can walk to things like the restaurants and things like that. People like that.
Absolutely.
They want to drive there, they want to park. Oh, they need parking too. But then they just want to get in and enjoy themselves. Hey, Steve, uh, two things. One is I sent you the promo. You didn't mention that I spelled your name wrong.
Oh no, I emailed you back. Yeah, I said just drop that E.
Oh, that's what it was. I thought, yeah. Anyway, I did. Uh,
Yeah.
I didn't understand, so obviously I missed that part. But I was doing it. I was because of the show. I prepared all of it, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, this name is spelled wrong. I
Yeah,
did fix it.
it's happened my entire life.
Yeah.
Everyone spells it with an E. I guess I thought the no E was a more popular way, but Kenny with an E at the end is, I guess, more popular because that's how everyone initially spells it. It happens, Larry.
Yeah, but it can't happen in a show like this. You have to do it right.
I
Um,
forgive you.
yeah, thanks. Well, nothing to forgive because it didn't get out there.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, it'll get out as soon as we post here. Um, how do people get in touch with you if they want more information?
You can find me everywhere. I'm on Instagram under Stephen Kenny Real Estate. I post a lot of Airbnb stuff there. Facebook, Stephen Kenny, Stephen with a V, Kenny. All the socials, LinkedIn and all that. People can reach me. My number's out there because we're realtors. Sometimes I get random texts. People ask me a lot of questions. I also have a YouTube channel. My name as well, Stephen Kenny. So it's definitely ways to find me. And we're in real estate, so I always answer. I'm always answering texts, always answering calls. So,
Exactly.
and I love it when people ask me real estate and Airbnb questions. I love answering them. It sharpens my skills
Yeah,
as I talk to you and to other people that want help with it. So it helps me out in the process, and it's a win-win for everyone.
absolutely. Stephen V. Kenny, such a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much, Larry. This was awesome. I can't believe that flew by. This was a great conversation.
It's unbelievable how quick it is.
It's
Join us
nuts.
if you like this. Join us next week. Subscribe, hit that button, ding, and all that kind of stuff. So you come back next week. Thanks, Stephen Kennery from Cameron Real Estate, and it's such a pleasure. Talk to you
Thank you,
soon.
Larry.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Recording